The massive outbreak of coronavirus. Was it intentional or accidental? Is China trying to dominate the world? If not, why is it many countries pointing at China? Let's start with global pandemic, which is a potential challenge to the entire world. The NCOV-19 or the novel coronavirus that emerged in 2019 from the city of Wuhan. First victim for coronavirus was from the Wuhan city in November 2019, but the China government succeeded in maintaining the secrecy of the virus that resembles SARS, which was fatal in the history. As a result of which, now the whole world is brooked up. Why would any country do that? What could be the reason for secrecy? That's something thought-provoking and resembles suspiciousness. We're all well aware that China's animal wet market is a threat. Yes, an even bigger threat is the virus bank in China. You heard that right, the deadly virus bank in Wuhan. A fact that China has invested huge amount of money to study virus. The giant lab in Wuhan, it's called the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The website of this institute declares that it has preserved more than 1,500 deadly viruses and also the Asia's largest virus bank. Technically, there is nothing wrong with all of this. It's a laboratory after all. Why should the world be worried? The world should be worried because of the safety practices of their labs which are under question. The Wuhan lab in China is the only lab in China which has facilities to handle coronavirus. Such viruses has to be studied in safety labs, but they claim that these viruses have escaped from the laboratory to nearby animal wet market which are not equipped to deal with. The disaster could have been avoided. It's an outbreak because of the disastrous mistake of Chinese government. On the other hand, considering the unprecedented pace of ever-growing biological technologies, many developed countries possess the ability to develop an intelligent virus with customized features in order to remain unnoticed on the victim's body for quite a time and start manifesting itself only after it has infected a considerable number of surrounding people. Looking at the whole picture with a broader perspective, it doesn't matter whether the agent is toxic, chemical or biological. The capability to produce and employ a virus, bacteria or a toxin by malicious actors or criminals could bring disastrous results. In case of coronavirus outbreak, if one considers it as an instance of biological war act, the probability of participation of criminal organizations seems to be very low. Due to the complexity of production process and the highly advanced technologies that's required to produce such viruses at the first place. Although it seems pretty convincing, but is it really rational? In reality, the pandemic of a dangerous virus, one like coronavirus, with a 2-week latent period in a highly populated country like China can cause severe problems. Why would any country store viruses without any use? Is it because it's preparing for a chemical war or a biological war? Without any weapon, is China trying to dominate the world? Question that's left unanswered. Because of their madness today, innocent people of their own country is suffering. What is actually hiding behind the curtains? Was it a strategy similar as China planned to develop roads near China and India border, which could ease them during war, or what if it had some other intentions? Nevertheless, India government has succeeded in the interruption of the work. However, China is well aware that India has a huge geographical advantage in the Indian Ocean, with southern peninsular India starting out into ocean like a floating birch. Further, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands complement peninsular India in its ability to effectively extend influence over the Indian Ocean. Indian Ocean is a vital asset as many trade routes go through it. The Chinese have not lost sight of our geographical advantages. Their pearls in the sea are complemented by growing relationships with our neighbors, in return providing them with military aid, economical assistance and investments, which is best explained by string of pearls concept. String of pearls refers to the network of Chinese military and commercial facilities and relationships along its sea lines of communication, which extend from the Chinese mainland to Port Sudan. It's the Chinese strategy to encircle India through the ocean. China has strategically developed several ports to encircle India. Almost 50% of the world's ship transportation happens in Indian Ocean region via Andaman Nicobar. and China eyes on it, understanding the above fact to control 50% of world's economy. Because of this, China is expanding its naval capacities with the construction of additional aircraft carriers and a sizable nuclear-powered submarine fleet. The immediate objective is to challenge the US naval path in the Western Pacific apart from making an influence in the Indian Ocean. China is artificially creating islands and building naval bases on top of it in the South China Sea. Naval experts rightly say that the present Chinese naval activity in the Indian Ocean is no cause for alarm as the assets it's creating are vulnerable, as they are too far away from the Chinese mainland and lack a cover. China is substantially landlocked as it does not have a direct access into the open sea. China's major objective would be to break out of the throttling island chain and obtain access more freely to the Pacific and Indian Oceans for its navy. So what do you think? Is China establishing its naval bases solely for influencing the trade routes? Or do they have anything else in their mind? Or is it trying to control India by all the possible ways? On the other hand, it looks very evident that China will turn Pakistan into its own semi-colony as it recently did with Sri Lanka. China has been nice to Pakistan on the surface that it has been building the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the CPEC, which will connect Western China with the Indian Ocean, provided of course India allows it. That could certainly benefit Pak, helping the country make a big step forward from an emerging to an amateur economy, creating a lot of jobs in this process. But it could hurt Pakistan too, like adding to Pak's corruption, which keeps pushing the cost of project higher by the day, making Pak more indebted in China, who has been financing the project. Rising indebtedness comes at a time when the country is already living beyond its means, as evidenced by persistent current account deficits, government debts and external debt. Meanwhile, Pakistan's foreign currency reserves and foreign capital flows are falling, making it increasingly likely that Pakistan will seek to resemble its debt to China. That's the model China applied in rescheduling Sri Lanka's debt, turning the country's Hambantota port officially into China's own port for 99 years, because of which Sri Lanka was completely under the control of China. Sri Lanka was stuck in the whirlpool of loans sanctioned by China for port development. Unfortunately, Sri Lanka was in loss of $1 million and was completely stuck in the loans. China, taking advantage of this situation, asked Sri Lankan government if they could allow them to station their submarine in Hambantota, which was a direct threat for India. Sri Lankan government approached India to help them in order to free them from loans. Our Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi took an important step by bringing new government in Sri Lanka and made an agreement to manage Hambantota port for 40 years along with the shares of 70% by investing. India has paid $1 million and freed Sri Lanka from Chinese government. China took control over Bangladesh too by helping build Chittagong port and made agreement to develop Sonadia port. But Modi ji, speaking to Bangladesh Prime Minister, resolved a decade-long issue of India-Bangladesh border issue in a single meeting, which built confidence on India. This resulted in cancellation of Sonadia port agreement with China and joined its hand with India by signing an agreement to develop Beira port. India, analyzing this situation, it took the help of China's enemy Japan. Japan immediately joined the hands with India. This would have definitely hurt China. As a matter of fact, China is trying to cover India in all directions and we are aware of it. And it has entered Pakistan land in the name of industrialization. This is also a direct threat for India, but India is more intelligent than Chinese think. Our beloved PM, understanding all these facts, has developed good relationship with Iran, Iraq, Israel and Saudi Arabia, the nearby nations of Pakistan. If something unprecedented event occurs between the two nations, India and Pakistan, India has full control to challenge Pakistan from other end. During 1980s, IAF trained nearly 100 Iraqi MiG-21 pilots. That speaks a lot about harmony between two countries, India and Iraq. And speaking about Israel, which is known as the most trusted friend of India, is the second most supplier of advanced war weapons to India, and India is the largest buyer of Israeli military weapons. Israel is one among the smallest nations but has built most strongest land army and most advanced weapons. The two countries have an extensive economic, military and strategic relationship. As of 2014, India is the third largest Asian trade partner of Israel and 10th largest trade partner overall. It is true, China is trying all its best to control and dominate either by its strategic plan to control Indian Ocean region, by building its relationship, by helping them build ports, or by giving loans, or by planning a biological weapon, or by spreading viruses like corona. Altogether, if one state decides to initiate a biological war against another state using a virus agent which has a potential to cause a global pandemic, it should consider the possibility of backfiring the same gun inside its own country in numerous ways. In an interconnected world like the one which we are living in, such actions cause multiple reactions in different ways. One may not even be able to predict them. Considering such cost and also the risk of being traced back and accused of committing such horrifying act, the possibility of state sponsorship in these cases will be considered relatively low. It's not like creating a computer virus that may or may not blow back to your face. It's a matter of people's lives. So overall, it gives rise to questioning all our minds as to who the real winner is, the China or the corona or the world fighting against them. Questions that's left unanswered.